let's get into a little bit of Ole Miss football. Chris, take it away.
All right, baby. Head coach Lane Kiffin. I love myself some Lane Kiffin. If you guys don't know who he is, just go follow him on Twitter. Dude's hilarious. Last year, though, 8-5, Christian, 4-4 in conference. Started out 7-1, I believe, something like that. 7-0, I think, last year. Rebels looked really good last year. They had a kind of a tale of one season, 2 seasons, if you will. It was start off super hot. Schedule was pretty favorable last year to begin the season. Back half of the schedule was super brutal. Obviously, being the SEC, that's just how it is. They did average, though, Christian, 33.5 points per game. That finished 29th in the country. That's not bad, especially playing the SEC. They gave up 25.5 points a game, which was 57th. That's kind of middle of the road, not actually bad, again, considering the SEC. 32nd in strength of schedule. Lost to Texas Tech last year. I think it was 42-25. Again, like I just stated, I'll let you dig into the stats here real quickly as you get into the players and stuff. But Ole Miss, God, I remember the hype when they were 7-0, 6-0, they were building. I was like, holy shit! Do they have a chance to really compete for the SEC title? And then they went 1-5 on that back stretch, dude. Christian, I'm sure you know that as being a Georgia fan. So go ahead and take it away with some of the stats here and the players, Christian. I know you do this on a daily, so I'll let you handle that one.
Yeah, no, Chris, you said it exactly right here. Last year, you touched on it. They started 7-0, finished the back half 1-5. Lane Kiffin, to kind of combat this, he realized he's got a problem. It's a defensive problem, right? So what Lane Kiffin did in the offseason was he went out and he hired himself a defensive coordinator. One Pete Golding, the former Alabama Crimson Tide defensive coordinator, Chris. Statistically, he wasn't bad, right? He wasn't bad at Bama. And Bama defenses have been...
an Alabama fan, Matt.
Oh, hey, listen, that's the difference. If you ask any Ole Miss fan, hey, over the last 10 years, you picked the worst Alabama defense, right? They would still take it. They would still probably take it. Okay? Going into this year. I'm not saying that, again, comparable when they had the land shark defense out there at Ole Miss, but that's neither here nor there. Most of those defenses, they've been pretty top notch, right? Last year we touched on it. Bama's defense wasn't terrible. They had a couple games where they got lit up, but other than that, they've been pretty damn good. He knows. The other thing is, Chris, he knows this conference pretty well too. So I think he's going to have a much better job at adjusting and getting them better than 75th in total defense, right? Which is where Ole Miss ranked last year.
Oh shit!
I think Ole Miss could finish this year inside the top 50 of total defense, right? Which could put them, if they do that, on the fringe of making an SEC championship. If they have a top 50 defense and they keep improving on offense.
Wow, bold take.
So with that, though, we'll kind of dig deep into the offense here a little bit, right? All right, so they're going to start to lean on Jackson Dart this year, right? He put up 3,600 yards and 21 touchdowns last year, but Oklahoma State transfer Spencer Sanders could push him for the job. It's not 100%. They're having a competition. I think Jackson Dart wins the job here. This offense, though, Chris, to me, they're going to lean on Quinshawn Judkins, who is a true freshman. Yes, sirree, he is. As a true freshman running back, he had 17 touchdowns and 1,600 yards. Big question is, who are they going to put in the wide receiving core to kind of keep this offense going here, right? They did land 2 receivers in the portal from smaller schools who should be able to replace Mingo and Heath's, right? Production from last year in Zachariah Franklin and Trey Harris. Also look out for slot man Jordan Watkins to put up some good numbers this year as well. At the tight end position, they land Memphis transfer Caden Prescorn, who did, he should help him. He had 7 touchdown receptions last year at Memphis, right? And he's going to have to pair nicely with tight end Michael Trigg, who put up 3 touchdown receptions last year as well. O-line, they return plenty of experience at all 5 spots. So their offensive line should be good. I'm not worried about them on offense, right? Chris, we've touched on this. I kind of gave you a little teaser at the beginning of this. I want to get into the defense really as a deep dive here. They returned some talent on that defensive front. All right, they're going to be bolstered by Jared Ivey and Cedric Johnson at both end spots, and they even get back J.J. Puegas. Hopefully I'm saying that right, at the defensive tackle spot. Linebackers, they've got former Louisville linebacker Monty Montgomery. He's going to be a big factor up there. They do have a 5-star true freshman and linebacker, Suntarine Perkins, who should be pretty good for him. Ole Miss fans, get excited and let us know what you think they're going to do on defense down below. But, their front seven with all that talent and experience, and most importantly, depth alongside of Pete Golden, and a scheme change, Chris, and a scheme change should make this easier on that secondary. That was the biggest part I feel like last year was they got in some of these games and it looked like a 7-on-7 match, right?
Yeah, here's the thing, man. I'm a little bit lower on Ole Miss this year than obviously you are. I think Pete Golding's a good defensive coordinator. I don't think he's great. I think that they're going to rely so heavily on the run game on offense. Flipping over to the other side of the ball here quick.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it, Christian. Jackson Dart's a starter. I don't doubt that at all. Spencer Sanders, I swear this kid's been playing for 6 years. I don't really know what happened with him in Oklahoma State, Mike Gundy, but long story short, though, they're going to pound the football, and I do think Judkins I think he's a top 5 back. He's up there with Braylon Allen, Donovan Edwards, Blake Corum, those guys, Singletary, whatever the hell his name is from Penn State. That kid's a stud too. But long story short, though, yeah, it does come down to the defense. I just don't know if they can contain and be able to hold teams just enough. Like the SEC is just a different animal. If Ole Miss is playing in the Big 12, totally different story. Hell, even if you're probably playing in the Big 10, it's a different story for them this year. Christian, I mean, I will get into the breakdown here of the schedule, but do you think, you obviously think their defense is going to be the biggest. What happens if they don't improve, Christian, this year? Let's say they finish again 60, 65th, right in that range, whatever you want to say, 70th, whatever, in total defense. With the schedule that they have placed this year, it's brutal. Again, the SEC did them no favors.
It is, but at the same time, we'll get into their schedule here in a bit, and I want to save my my take on it. Actually, you know what? You bring up a good point, Chris. Why don't we just get into the schedule right now?
I'm fine.
How about we just do that? By God,
let's
get a little in live action here, Chris. First of all, they start off against Mercer. I hope that they would win that game. I'm going to give them the dub there. They go and play at Tulane. This is a game we talked about. This is a dangerous Tulane. This is a dangerous Tulane team, right?
Yep.
I'm still going to give the edge. I think I said earlier as a hot take Tulane could beat them. I'm going to walk that back. I'm going to say Ole Miss can definitely beat Tulane. They should beat Tulane. Right? It just should happen. I think last year you touched on it, didn't they? They lost that bowl game, if I'm not mistaken, to Texas Tech. Mm-hmm. And we're saying Tulane beat USC in a bowl game. So that's the only reason why we're kind of sitting here talking that. But I'll give them the dub there. Georgia Tech. Again, I got to go Ole Miss. Then they got Alabama. Remember, Chris, this is the key here. This is a different Alabama team than in years past. I know Bama fans are sitting there saying, well, our defense is going to be elite again. And you just don't know what Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson, or Ty Buckner are going to do back there. Well, I tell you, if it's Ty Buckner and Tommy Reese, we saw what that combination did against Marshall. I'm not worried about it. I'll take Ole Miss in that. LSU, I'm a little worried about, right? I would be worried about that. Arkansas is getting some pieces back. Could be worried about that. Auburn, first year under Hugh Freeze. It is Hugh Freeze. Still give me Ole Miss in that game. Vandy, I like Vandy. It's a feel-good story. They're probably not going to win this game. A&M could be much better, but again, A&M struggles on offense. So I really think that, and I'm just looking at the schedule. Even A&M, I still would probably give the edge right now to Ole Miss. Georgia, this is a game that Ole Miss can upset Georgia. A lot of Georgia fans don't want to hear that, myself included. But I'm telling you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Then you go into UL Monroe and Mississippi State. This is not as hard of a schedule, I think, is what you were leading it on to be. I got them 10-2 with losses to LSU and Georgia.
Jeez, whoa! Say that prediction again on air again, so we can all hear you.
10-2 with losses to LSU and Georgia.
Wow. Me and you are on different wavelengths. Wow, 10-2. I could easily see them going 6-6 in a weird way. I think you overlooked Tulane. I think Tulane is a damn good team that brings back a ton of production after last year, and Pratt at quarterback, and their head coach who's been there forever. But I do have Ole Miss getting that dub at Tulane. I think that'll be a tough game, though. I really, truly do. Don't overlook that one. Bama, I got as a loss because it's at Bama. I think it'll be a good game. Don't get me wrong, Ole Miss fans. I don't think you guys are trash. LSU, I have them as a loss. Alabama, LSU, I think are two. There's very few teams in the country that can even play those back-to-back two teams like that. That's about as brutal as it gets. Arkansas, not a pushover either. This is where I was saying earlier, and you disagree with me. I think their schedule is brutal. Alabama, LSU, Arkansas, Auburn. Holy shit. I have them beating Arkansas, losing to Auburn. So now I got 3 losses. Vandy, like you said, feel good story. I don't think Vandy gets it done this year. I do think Vandy's going to be a lot better, though, than they've been the previous couple years. A&M, tough freaking game. I do have Ole Miss winning this at A&M, which is it took me a while to figure that one out and kind of decide on that one. Georgia, I have them as a loss. UNL Monroe, that better be a W. Mississippi State, that Egg Bowl, I think, is very underrated, by the way. I think that is a deep rivalry down there in Mississippi. I'm not from there, but that game is always a close it just doesn't get enough hype. Those two schools hate each other. It's like kind of like Michigan State. I have Ole Miss pegged at 8-4, and I think that is super high. I love Lane Kiffin. I love what he's doing, but what's his biggest win in his this will be his 4th year, I think. Don't quote me on that, at Ole Miss. It's going to be tough this year. I can't believe you have them at 10-2. You better put some money down in Vegas. I think Vegas has got them at like 6.5 or 7. Christian, you better put your whole mortgage on there if you feel that confident, buddy. But no, I have them at 8-4. I think their schedule is just brutal. I do that. Alabama, LSU, Arkansas, Auburn stretch, and you have Vandy in between. They need to turn around, got to play A&M and Georgia. I can't believe I'm trying to talk you into how tough the schedule is, and you're an SEC guy, and I am not. So you might want to get educated. Rewatch this video a couple times so you get your head screwed on straight, my man.
Listen, here's what I'm saying, man, and I'll say this, right? I'm gonna I said the 10-2. I got Ole Miss fans probably either hyped or pissed off because I didn't say they were gonna go undefeated. But Chris, and listen to this, I do think I could see a scenario where they do lose 3 or 4 games. I've got it written down here in my notes. But as a worst case, I think that's a worst case, right? 3 or 4 games. Pete Golden, he's going to have a much better on defense, right? How much better, I don't know. He's probably going to go from the 75th defense to hopefully the 50th best defense in the country. For me, that would probably do leaps and bounds more for them. Chris, the other thing, and I kind of wrote this down somewhere in my notes, but I'll kind of get to this. It's not so much on defense. We've really hyped and really hearkened on this defense a lot, I feel like, especially me here. I look at this and I say, okay, you go back and you look at their games last year, and there was a couple of games where that explosive offense, the lane train, they kind of fell stagnant. You know what I mean? Like they kind of fell flat. And if they could have figured out a way to put up, again, 35, 40 points in some of these games, they could have beat them. Now, we're not trying to play the shoulda, coulda, woulda game here, right? Because anybody could do that. But when you're a team like Tennessee, Ole Miss, Ohio State, and you know that there's some question marks on the defensive side of the ball, you can't shit the bed when you get in these big games, right? If you're gonna shit the bed on defense, you got to at least come out and play lights out on offense. So you got to play really lights out on offense and have a decent defensive performance if you're going to win these games, right? I'm not saying that they can't lose more than 2 games this year. I'm not saying they can't win more than 10 games this year. I just think it really depends how well and how much of an impact Pete Golding's going to make and how Lane Kiffin can get this team prepared.
No, I mean, I'll give you credit for laying your balls out on the line here with that take. I do. I'm not sold, I guess, on Pete Golding. I think he's a good defensive coordinator. I don't think he's great, and I think you need to be great in the SEC. I do love Lane Kiffin, though, and I do think that he knows what the hell he's doing. But I think their schedule's just rough, man. Like I think if you take like Ole Miss and stick them in the ACC or the Big 12, they could probably win that thing or compete for the title. I just SEC is just so brutal week in and week out. I don't think they're quite there yet. So I'll leave that at that, though, Christian. I think we'll, I guess, time will tell. That's a great thing about this.